baton clattered to the ground, but the nearby sleeping prisoner remained unresponsive. This made the already suspicious guard even more convinced that something was wrong with the prisoner. Meanwhile, the prisoner beside him was terrified, because only he knew the person lying on the bed was actually a dummy. The guard slowly reached out his hand. Luckily, it was just a false alarm. It turned out that Frank, who was digging the wall, had returned just in time. The next day at mealtime, Frank told his companions about what had happened the night before. However, to further explore the vent, he needed someone to climb up with him. Fortunately, his companion's hole was also dug through. The plan could proceed smoothly. Late at night, the two quietly climbed up again. With the help of his companion, Frank successfully grabbed the vent's metal grating, but the bad news was, he found that all the bars were tightly secured with rivets. It was impossible to open them by hand alone, unless they could get a power drill. But in prison this was almost impossible, because tools like these were strictly controlled by the guards. Even his companion started to waver, advising him to give up. But little did he know Frank already had a plan in mind. The next day in the chapel, Frank immediately noticed the small fan on the table. After the concert ended, he quietly hid the fan in the instrument case. Then, acting as if nothing had happened, he left. Unexpectedly, the guards suddenly demanded to check the prisoners' cases, but Frank remained calm. He even offered his case for inspection. Interestingly, when the guard saw the nervous look on his teammate's face, he chose to inspect his teammate's case instead. And so, relying on his exceptional courage, Frank successfully brought the fan back to the cell. That night, Frank and his companion returned to the roof. He first used a pipe to break the rusty bars, then climbed up and sat on the iron window. Using his previous electrical knowledge, he combined the drill bit his companion had gotten with the fan, and soon transformed it into a makeshift hand drill. Though this tool removed rivets slowly, but it was low-powered and made little noise. However, at this critical moment, his companion accidentally dropped the crowbar. The noise immediately alerted the patrolling guard. He hurried to the second floor to check, but luckily found nothing unusual. After more than an hour of effort, Frank finally broke through all the barriers. However, they still faced a more challenging problem, which was how to swim across the icy water after escaping the prison. A companion working in the raincoat workshop suggested that he could secretly make inflatable life jackets, but it would take a few days, so they decided to break out as soon as the items were ready. A few days later, when everything was prepared, the warden unexpectedly conducted a surprise inspection, and the primary target was Frank. Frank was terrified by this. Had their escape plan been discovered? The guard then began searching the room, but after turning everything upside down, they found nothing. But at that moment, the warden suddenly noticed a box in the corner. Frank became extremely nervous. Fortunately, the warden didn't notice the vent's abnormality. He only wanted to open the box to see if he could find any contraband, but in the end found nothing. Seeing that he couldn't catch Frank in the act, the warden left in frustration. But he wasn't done yet. To prevent any incidents, the warden decided to transfer him to another cell the next morning. Upon learning he was being moved, Frank realized there was no time to delay. Had to act immediately. He quickly set up a dummy head on the bed as a disguise, then crawled out through the vent. After the group gathered in the duct, they began climbing towards the top of the prison, but little did they know, the dummy in the cell had already aroused the guard's suspicion.